As well as being home to horror story writer Stephen King, the most northeastern US state of Maine has its share of unexplained phenomena and strange presences. Here are some of them. Ghost ship of Harpswell Harbour. A phantom ship is said to haunt the residents of Casco Bay in Maine. First described in 1866 by poet John Greenleaf Whittier, the mystery vessel has been sighted many times by locals and is seen to appear out of the mist, head towards a dock and then slowly vanish without a trace. The ship is always under full sail, glides straight ahead regardless of wind and tide, and is usually seen at twilight. Witnesses report that there is no one seen on the ship steering it into the dock. When it looks about to crash, the ship can seem to go backwards and then disappear into a mist. Legend grew around the sightings that when someone observed the ghost ship, a person in Harpswell will pass away. Many locals believe that the ghost ship of Harpswell was a famous ship called Dash, a privateering vessel that saw action during the War of 1812 and was presumed to have sunk during a gale in 1815. While the superstition may have been stoked by some creative fiction writers, some real-life locals seem to have copped its curse. Sailor Easter Toothaker was reported to have seen the phantom vessel before fatally jumping overboard, while another source claims the ship made an appearance to Polly Toothaker at the time of Captain John Toothaker's passing in 1841. The ghost ship's last supposed appearance was in the 1880s, when the guest at the Harpswell house reported seeing a full-rigged ship advancing into the Sound, but on telling others, the ship was nowhere to be seen. However, 60 years later, in August 1942, a blip on ships' radar screens in Casco Bay triggered a warning of an invasion, despite US and British navies' vigilant patrolling of the Atlantic coast. The siren preceded pandemonium as gongs sounded, guns were readied, and sailors and soldiers rushed to battle stations. A local couple luckily avoided an exploding shell from an Allies' big gun, then looked around the nearby shattered rock ledge to see a schooner sailing past them. They recognised it as the Dash and could see sailors on her deck, while Navy and Coast Guard vessels were in hot pursuit. The military ships were just about to converge upon the phantom schooner when she vanished. Veteran journalist Sam Smith also tells a tale of when in 1975 he'd been sitting next to his mother at Sunday lunch with the family. She looked out at sea and made the observation, "Oh look, I can see the ghost ship of Harpswell." He thought little of the statement at the time until just a few hours later, down on the shore, his father experienced a fatal heart attack. When they later returned from the hospital and parked the car, Smith's mother suddenly cried, "The ghost ship of Harpswell," and they remembered the ominous apparition. Finding the poem by John Greenleaf Whittier, they recalled the narrative that women saw the vessel just before the husband's demise, but would disregard its warning. Seguin Lighthouse. The Seguin Island Light Station was commissioned by George Washington in 1795 and is Maine's tallest lighthouse. Its dark history includes tales of hauntings arising from accounts of a keeper who committed a cruel and chilling act. Sometime during the early 1800s, a keeper and his wife were settling in to spend the winter in isolation on Seguin Island. In the hope that his new bride would not become too bored and lonely in the solitary outpost, the keeper arranged for a piano to be brought to the island. Unfortunately, only one piece of music arrived with the piano, which the keeper's wife proceeded to play over and over again. The keeper then had new music sheets shipped to the island in the hope of getting some variation in the musical ambience, but his wife obviously really liked the first tune. She continued to play the same song repetitively until one day the keeper snapped. He smashed the piano with an axe and then lost all control and, still seething with rage, turned the axe on his bride. Later, realising the terrible crime he'd committed, the keeper eventually took his own life, which left the lighthouse unattended. Finally, the authorities became aware that something was wrong and travelled to the island to make the gruesome discovery. The haunting of Seguin Island is well known amongst sailors working in the area. There continue to be reports of wafting piano music coming from the island as the keeper's wife still plays her song. Visitors to the island sense a strangeness there. while other spirits may also haunt Seguin. A young girl is rumoured to have passed and been buried there. Witnesses have also seen her ghost playing around the island. Another story is told of an official from the Coast Guard who spent the night at the lighthouse at the time it was decommissioned in 1985. His job was to remove the furniture from the keeper's house. He reported that an apparition of a former keeper wearing old-fashioned oilskins materialised during the night. The spirit begged, "Don't take the furniture, please leave my house alone." There was an unexplained accident the following day when the boat full of furniture sank. Kennebunkport. This small coastal town seems to host an array of ghosts, along with the tourists who often want to encounter them. A travel writer for Visit Maine claimed that a family did not believe in ghosts until they stayed at a historic home on the ocean in Kennebunkport. She claims that an ethereal lady in a long blue dress and with wispy blonde hair materialised one night to her 4-year-old son. The spectre read him a book and then vanished into thin air. When the occurrence became clear, her babysitter was terrified. The local police were at a loss to explain it, and she, as a parent, was fearful. But she had to admit that the ghost was friendly and had even chosen her son's favourite book. Strangely, the same spirit was also seen at the nearby oceanfront Shoremud Inn, haranguing a housekeeper from a rooftop balcony before disappearing. Several people seem to know who she was, and have also spotted the blonde woman in the long blue dress there, and in the house next door. This was where her husband, who was the owner of the inn, reportedly perished by his own hand. The 1799 Kennebunk Inn has at least 2 known ghosts. One moves glasses around and generally creates a racket. He is thought to be a former night watchman and clerk called Silas Perkins from several decades past. The mischievous spirit was also a published poet. On one occasion, 3 monks were seen to levitate off a shelf and strike a bartender on the back of his head. The other spirit was identified by psychic Vicky Munro. She says that a woman called Sarah Emily stands on the main staircase and greets visitors as they enter. The guest room most notorious for activity is room 17. A housekeeper reported that she was cleaning the room when she had to unplug the television. A few seconds later, the television turned on by itself. Ghost Bride. In the wee hours of July the 11th, 2009, police stopped to check on a shaken young driver who had been flashing his headlights. 16-year-old David had seen a white glow by the side of the road, which, as he drew closer, he realised was a young woman in her early 20s. She asked him if he could take her to a church on Route 11, and as they set out, she asked David to drive faster as she was late for her wedding. Already feeling nervous, he tried to increase his speed, realising that she was indeed wearing a wedding dress. He turned off on Route 11, which was plunged into darkness, and finally pulled up between 2 posts at the front of what seemed to be a church. He asked his passenger if this was the right place, to which she answered, "Goodbye," and as he turned to her, she disappeared. David was certain that his car door had not opened, and the unnerving experience was reported by Mark LaFlamme in the Lewiston Sun-Journal. David has since researched his spectral passenger and concluded that the woman who sat in his Camaro was a bride felled by a car on the way to a wedding in the 1930s, her prospective newlywed forever trying to reach her longed-for destination. He's even found out that the man who was to marry the woman is still alive, now elderly and still living in Maine.